Hey there, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jason Smith with an update on what's happening with Hurricane Beryl, now very close to the southern coast of Jamaica. And this is still a remarkable hurricane. It is being sheared a little now, which is good, and the pressure's going up, which is also good. It's a sign that it's weakening, but the winds are still very, very significant. You're looking at a high resolution view of what's going on. I'll bring it up full for you here, and this is Beryl on our 3D satellite. And it looks like the eye may be trying to reappear a bit here on the satellite imagery as it's going over Jamaica. And what I'll do is I'll advance this over to a more traditional look. This is the infrared satellite picture. I have it kind of zoomed out right here. A couple of things to note as we look at it here. There in the center of your screen near Jamaica is Beryl, but also behind it we've got another area that we're watching, but the chances of that other wave developing are actually pretty low. They're at around 20%, but that is a pretty prominent feature that's showing up there on the maps. And so we are looking at right now just still a wave that's kind of trailing along behind Beryl, and this is that wave right there. And then this is Beryl right here, moving in on top of Jamaica basically right now. Not a good situation for folks in Jamaica. This is a little tighter satellite shot here. And looking at it, it looks like the eye trying to reemerge, and it's right there off the central tip of Jamaica. There's a little peninsula that is a little to the west of Kingston, Jamaica, and that is most likely where at least the eye wall is going to be interacting with Jamaica. The eye wall may kind of work right along the southern coast of Jamaica, and it's a bad situation for that island country there. There may be some interaction with the higher terrain of Jamaica that will have a negative impact on the system, meaning that it could weaken it a little bit as it interacts with some of the higher terrain of Jamaica. But remember, the eye is actually still right there along the beach and right along the coast, and so we're not going to see a ton of weakening for that. The main issue for weakening from that standpoint, it's not water temperature, it's actually upper level wind shear. It's these winds out of the west that are higher in the atmosphere, and they're going to be kind of ripping the tops off the hurricane and disrupting the hurricane. So we have that going on with Beryl, and I'll switch it over up full here. And so I'll pull out my little pointer so you can see a little bit better about what I'm talking about. The eastern edge of the system, there is wind that is blowing in towards the storm, and a lot of that is really because they just got such a brisk forward speed, and so the net result is shear, and that is disrupting it. But if we look at the last couple of satellite images, it looks like the eye may be starting to try and reappear as we are getting into Jamaica right now, looking at it there. So we do have it starting to really ramp up. Let's go in tight here. Why not? So you can kind of see what appears to be an eye right there in central Jamaica, and I'm going to read out some of the locations in Jamaica that are being impacted here. It's a pretty sizable island, a popular tourist destination in the Caribbean. And so, you know, you've got Kingston, Jamaica, which is the main location, is the capital of Jamaica. And Kingston, Jamaica is located about where the word Jamaica is, right there. And then you have this peninsula that sticks out right here, and it looks like that eye wall is grazing that peninsula. And some of these communities that are along the south-facing slope, Treasure Beach is right in here, and it looks like the eye walls basically go right over Treasure Beach, and then this is going to be heading towards Negril, which is out on the far western side of Jamaica. And tropical storm force winds extend out a good ways from the center, so all of Jamaica is getting tropical storm force conditions. And then we have hurricane conditions going on, most likely over most of the island of Jamaica too, with those hurricane force winds extending out well beyond 40 miles from the center of the circulation of Beryl. So Beryl right now is a 140 mile per hour category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. The one thing that we're seeing with the statistics that is promising is that the pressure is going on. The pressure was at 938 when it was at peak intensity yesterday. Now it's up to 959. And normally as the pressure goes up, the winds go down. So we want that pressure to keep rising, but it's taking a while for the winds to kind of wind down still around this system. It's moving west-northwest at 18, so the forward speed has slowed just a bit with Beryl. Now, as we look at the track, where's it going? Well, it looks like the core of the storm is actually going to be a little south of the Cayman Islands. And so this was an area of concern as we're looking at the Cayman Islands. The Caymans, Grand Cayman, is a little north of the track now. So it looks like the core of the storm is going to go a little bit to the south of the Cayman Islands, and then it heads towards the Yucatan. And this could be a significant hurricane hitting the Yucatan as a potentially a Category 2 storm on Thursday night and early Friday morning. Beyond that, it is looking more and more likely that this could be a South Texas situation, potentially as a hurricane. There's still the idea that it'll weaken some as it moves across the Yucatan, and that will disrupt the circulation some. See, these hurricanes, they feed off of the latent heat release from warm water, and when they move over a land area, they typically start winding down very quickly. So as this passes over the Yucatan, it will disrupt the storm, it will weaken it along with the wind shear, but the conditions are actually favorable for some re-intensification over the western Gulf as the shear will be lighter and the water will be very warm. The storm will also be slowing down a little in its forward speed, and as it gets on the edge of the ridge, it could end up having a direct impact on Texas. And it looks like South Texas, of course the rainiest side of the storm, the east side, may end up near Corpus Christi, north of Brownsville, and all the way up closer, maybe even a little bit closer to Houston with the track on this one. So how does it affect our situation? Well, it's 4th of July weekend, and tomorrow we still have a low risk of rip currents at the beaches tomorrow, but Friday that rip current risk goes up, and then Saturday, Sunday, and Monday we have a very high risk of rip currents. And so this is going to be very important if you're seeing this to kind of get the word out to other people who are down at the beach or heading down to the beach that it's going to be too rough to swim by Saturday and Sunday, possibly as soon as Friday, but Saturday and Sunday look like a no-go. This is a dangerous situation when water temperature is really warm, air temperatures are really hot. Everybody wants to get in the Gulf, but it's just not safe because the swells coming off of Beryl will be causing for a lot of rough surf and strong undercurrents, and that can create those rip tides. So that's something to watch out for if you have beach plans. Now, let's look at, let's see what else I have in here. This is the steering flow map. So this is something that will help kind of explain why the storm is going where it's going. At the beginning of the animation, there is a very strong, I'm going to back it up to the beginning. Right now, look at that big kind of pinkish reddish bubble that is over our area. Well, that is a mid-level ridge. And so the flow pattern around a mid-level ridge is clockwise, and this is on the southern flank of that mid-level ridge, so it's sending this thing west-northwest right now. But what we're seeing with that mid-level ridge is that it's going to weaken, and so as Beryl moves across the Yucatan, it will likely slow a little in its forward speed. It still should be going generally west-northwest, but as that ridge breaks down, you can see it begins to break down and shift a little more towards the Atlantic, and that's going to allow this thing to turn north, and the steering currents are going to be weaker. So the fan and the models, they're going to be spreading out as this thing approaches South Texas or even Central Texas and northern Mexico. That's what we're seeing there with the steering flow pattern on Beryl, and you can see that's kind of lingering across the coast for a while before it gets absorbed and kind of falls apart. So those will be things to watch there in the future for next week. This is a rare storm in June, which is when this formed. I know that we're in July now, but this thing formed in June. We almost never see something happen in the Atlantic But this storm fed off the fact that our water temperatures are at record-breaking levels. The globe is just warmer. That's what's going on. And so that has the potential to produce storms earlier in the season and make them stronger than usual if the upper level environment is favorable. And this year versus last year, the upper environment is favorable. Now in July, you can say, okay, well, things can start to form around the Windward Islands, but this actually got going in the central Atlantic. So this is a very rare system. It's something we've never seen before. And normally when we do see things forming up around the Windward Islands, that is in late July and not early July, not 4th of July, not before 4th of July, not in late June. The other little wave that's behind it, the odds of development, only about 20%, so we're looking pretty good with that one. There was some concern that we might have another system coming through, but it looks like just a rain system based on what we're seeing right now. The next name on the list, we actually did have a tropical storm, Chris. It was short-lived. It happened over the weekend, pushed into Mexico. And behind that, the next name would be Debbie, and really this other wave is the only candidate we have right now becoming Debbie, but we're right on track for an above normal season. Normally June and July are quiet. We've already had 3 named systems, and one of those has been a monster major hurricane. And the history of landfalls across our area, kind of interesting. It's been a long time since we've seen a direct hit from a major hurricane. And if you have to go all the way back to Hurricane Dennis, which was kind of a forgotten storm because it was so compact. It had such a small hurricane force wind field. It was a Category 3 that hit Santa Rosa Island. Ivan was obviously a memorable storm. Category 3 that hit Gulf Shores, and then it brought the worst of the weather from there and over towards Pensacola. And then you had Frederick, which was a 4, but that hit in 1979. So it's been a long time since we've seen a bad storm here. This one is still holding as a Category 4. Beryl is 130 to 156 miles per hour. That is Category 4. It is a mid-level Category 4 right now as it's interacting with Jamaica. I'm going to have more on this coming up. If you're watching us live, I'll have some information on Fox City News at 3 p.m. At 4 o'clock, we're getting a new advisory and a new forecast track on Beryl, so I'll have an update on that. And then on Fox City News at 5 p.m. and then again later tonight at 9 and 10 p.m. we'll have more updates on Beryl. So we're going to be here for you online, on the Gulf Stream, and also on Fox 10 News and our Fox 10 Weather app. So we appreciate you joining us for this edition of Next Weather as we take a deep dive on Hurricane Beryl. We'll continue to be doing this throughout the week this week, and we'll be back next week as well and throughout the tropical season with updates on what's happening, the weather that affects you, whether it be the heat advisory that we have today, or the tropics. Thanks for joining us today.